Yeah, but what do I need to do that for with search? I mean, I'd rather have it all in one folder so I can just search real quick to find out where there's no. I don't know. I can't come up with a reason why I'm not mad at why I should be mad at myself. I mean, that's the whole Gmail philosophy, right? You know, never have to delete any email, just leave it all in there and use Google search functions to find old emails. Well, the same thing is true here. If I have an unlimited inbox, which is what was sold to me, I shouldn't have to delete crap. Yeah, plus it is definitely not in my skill set to organize. I'd rather just have a gigantic. In fact, from my perspective, one of the best inventions of email was the shared inbox. Now all the new email clients have a single inbox. You know, I could add 10 email addresses to it, reads all of them as individual, and then just gives me the one bulk email inbox instead of having to go to check 10 different ones. Epic. Totally epic. Okay. So let's pick up where we left off. I believe last time we currently have a little formula in here that, well, actually quickly from the quiz. Question was, what's the difference between editing the prototype and editing an individual instance, and give examples of each when we would want to do that? Well, editing the prototype makes global changes to anything as an instance of an object except things that you've already unlocked, instances you've created and then unlocked. Okay, so editing something makes a global change. When would you want to do editing the prototype makes a global change? When would you want to do that? When you want to have a zillion of these different guys on the screen at once and them all behaving the same way. As opposed to editing an individual instance. When would you want to do this? Well, you know, you might want to do this if you have a specific guy that you want to act differently than other generic instances of this. So maybe you have like in a video game, you might have a boss. And the boss is like a normal flying turtle guy, but he's like a super flying turtle guy. And he has laser beams to shoot out of his eyes and stuff like that. In fact, we're going to have to add that to our golf simulator. A flying turtle guy that's laser beams. When would you want to do that? Well, when you need to give special characteristics to an individual instance of that prototype. Make sense? Okay, so something along those lines would be fair. Now, if I remember correctly, we added some. We started the ball speed off at 120, and I think that right now we are reducing ball speed. I want to say by like 25 or something like that. Just a hard-coded in value. Let's go in and check that. We would probably be doing it in golf ball. So every 1 second, if ball speed is greater than 0, then adjust the ball speed by the current wind. So we gave a global variable called current wind that belongs to our game. And we currently have that set at 0, but we might set it to -10. So that's a 10-mile-an-hour wind into our face. And we saw this seems to be fairly legit, but we actually have an issue when we have a tailwind. Tailwind tends to give us a little bit of boost on our, gives us a little bit of boost on our drive, which I can tell you is not accurate in the real world of. So if we set this to, well, here we'll just set it to 10. Just so we're comparing. So a 10-mile-an-hour tailwind, we get some lift. Okay, so I can tell you with complete certainty that in real life, that is not how it works. The wind's in your face, ball tends to go a little shorter. Wind's behind you, ball tends to go a little bit longer. And actually, typically a wind in your face causes the ball to go more. You lose more yards from having the wind in your face than you gain yards having the same wind at your back. That tends to be a truth. So if you lose 15 yards with the wind in your face, the same wind at your back, you're not going to gain 15. You might gain 6 or something like that. Okay, so clearly our cumulative wind speed effect right now is not what we need to happen. So we want this golf ball, again, we're not taking any spin into consideration. We want this golf ball to slow down naturally. How are we going to pull this off? Any suggestions?
Drag.
Okay, we can do it with drag. We messed around with drag a little bit last class. What was the issue with drag? Well, at least from our current understanding, drag made no difference.
Right.
So it's a fake variable that you can make changes to. It doesn't make any difference. It's just there as a placeholder, right? Part of the reason is because we're not messing around with things that drag has an influence on. If we go back to our scene and we look at gravity, we see we actually have gravity in 2 separate directions. We have gravity on the y, which we currently have set at real gravity, right? And then we have gravity on the x. Well, let's just set that to 9.8 as well. Okay? Now what I need to do, just for the sake of argument here, I'm just going to create a null actor. Throw them out on the screen here. Okay, so what we want to notice is that effect of gravity, 9.8, pushed it to the left. Should be both of our lefts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I flip-flop. Okay, so we just saw how that gravity had an effect. If I change the x gravity to 0, we should just see that box fall out of the sky. Falls directly. Okay, so gravity is a constant force in an individual direction. A positive gravity on the x pushes us, it's almost like a wind into our face, right? A positive direction on the y pushes us down. Okay? Similarly, if we do a negative gravity, now it gets pushed that direction. So, basically a 9.8 gravity is the same as a 10-mile-an-hour tailwind. They seem to have the same effect.
Did we reset the wind?
Don't we still have the tailwind?
I don't think so. I think I set it back to 0.
Nope.
Would the gravity have any effect on it because it's still constrained?
Gravity should still have an effect. Oh, I see what you're saying. The X on that is constrained on the golf ball. To current ball speed. Trying to think what's the right way to show this so we can see the effect of gravity. I'm going to just turn that off. Huh? Well, can I just, I can just kill it.
But
Can I
you
just
turn it
dis-
off and not have to reset everything.
Yeah, but that's fine. I'm getting rid of it anyways.
Yeah.
We're permanently getting rid of it.
Well, you have to get rid of it in the instance of then.
I am. Oh, did the instance? No, I don't think so because the instance used to have the instance is still the
Oh, okay.
original. We used to have the camera following it, but not now.
you change the camera to the score then?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So what I want to do is I want to set this guy's initial speed on X to the ball speed and then let it naturally slow down. So let's start off with solving that problem. So as soon as we hit the start button, we want something to occur. What do we want to occur? We want the ball speed, the X, to be equal to the current ball speed. But not constrain it, set it. Okay? So we're going to add a rule. We're going to add a rule that game's current ball speed, as soon as it's greater than 0, what are we going to do? We're going to change attribute, which is an action. So this only happens once. We're going to change our golf balls linear velocity on X to be whatever the ball speed is. Current ball speed. Okay? So just for right now, let's just hit row.
Does it not stop when you have to change?
I need to have his motion set to off and then turn it on. So we're going to set his movable under physics to off. And then as soon as we turn the ball speed, his linear velocity, we'll also change the attribute. The golf balls, physics, movable, equal to true.
That's interesting.
Well, no, what's happening is that this rule is not, because it's not responding to an event, it's allowing us to ask a question, but because inside of it it has two actions, we are only asking the question one time. Okay, so rather, this whole thing, this behavior list, is what we called previously the game loop, right? This is happening every unit of time, consistent unit of time. That's part of whatever the timer is that's governing the entire game loop. Probably, I'm guessing it's probably a 20th of a second or something like that. Right now we have a rule, and a rule is a behavior container. And the things that are inside of this rule are both actions, so they can only occur one time. This rule is we're only asking that question one time right now. I think we can prove that, just for the time being. I'm going to add an attribute to my golf ball. We'll call this guy num questions. Start off at 0. And we will change an attribute. What attribute? Golf balls num questions to be equal to whatever golf balls num questions is plus 1. And then we are going to have this guy display. I think I'm already displaying something somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Down a little bit. Right there.
Okay, we're not going to display downward force now. We're going to instead display our golf balls num questions. Okay, now num questions originally starts off as 0. As soon as we hit this this rule that we wrote down here, not down there, up here, this rule should start moving. is what we're trying to accomplish. As soon as we hit this, it'll ask the question, is our game's current ball speed greater than 0? Well, if we had already hit the start button, yes. Since we haven't hit the start button when this thing first starts, this will be no. It should change our num questions to whatever it is plus 1. And we see a 1 in there. So that rule has already fired. Not firing multiple times. We're not seeing it go to 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. So we missed our opportunity. We would have had to hit the start button before that rule even, which may not even be possible. Oh, definitely not that. Okay. But in any case, we don't want to have to rely on that. So we want to set our golf ball's motion to on as soon as the current ball speed goes to something greater than 0. How do we do that?
Would you have to do it in the start button?
Say this again?
In the start button, when you touch it, set the ball speed to what you need it to be.
Well, that's already happening. The ball speed is going to 120 when we hit the start button. But we need our golf ball. We want this guy to become aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is we're asking a question right now, and because of that question it deals with a single attribute, and inside we have a bunch of actions, that question is only getting asked one time. Go ahead.
Maybe we could do something with the release of the start button. Somehow you press it to set it to 0, and then when you release it goes.
Okay, well there's two ways we can solve this. I'll give you the obvious way that I'm going to say we're not allowed to use that way. So we have to MacGyver it and come up with a creative way. Okay? So one way we can solve this is edit the actual start button, the instance of the start button. So this is related to today's quiz. I can edit that instance of the start button, and because it's happening inside the scene, he has access to the golf ball. So I can say as soon as that guy receives the tap and we change the thing, then change the golf ball's motion to... Okay, so I'm in an individual instance right now, and I can say when touch is released, we're also going to change an attribute. What attribute? Our golf ball. So we're going to go to current scene, layers, background, golf ball, physics, motion, or movable, sorry, equal to true. So by doing that, when we hit start, does he have any effect right now?
It's because you still have the question in there.
This guy? No, not this guy. This guy. Well, this just said is if it's greater than 0.
No, but remember when you did it the first time, it changes the self-num questions, and then you can't run the rule because it already executed that.
Right, but this rule shouldn't make a difference. So, I mean, whether this rule's here or not shouldn't make a difference since I'm turning on. Because that rule just fired. It fired right off the bat. We're not updating the num thing, but we should have motion now turned on. We should be able to prove that if we go up here and we display our own physics movable. So we'll display our movable. So right now it's false. As soon as we hit this, it should go to true. Okay, so that is having an impact on it. The question is why isn't it moving? Oh, because we're not constraining it anymore. So we need to go back up here just for... linear velocity is motion, linear velocity on X to our game's current ball speed. So we'll constrain that again. But initially, movable is false. Actually, I think I remember what's going on here. Let me just test something here real quick. I'm going to turn his movable back on. Okay. Movable, even though it seems like you can, I do not believe you can change somebody's movable programmatically. I think it has to be either on or off to begin with. I kind of remember that from last year. Let's see if we can prove that.
So does he start dropping?
Well, no, because gravity doesn't have an effect on him. But we should be able to prove it on our extra little box here. We're going to set this guy's movable to off. And this guy is called actor 2. So we'll go into our instance of start button. And we're going to change that guy's movable to true. So we're going to go to current scene, layers, background, actor 2, physics, movable to true. Well, didn't I turn it off?
Did you set it to when the touch was pressed on the start button?
Yeah. Oh, I understand what you're saying. I have touch released. Let's make this guy display his movable. Black. Okay, well it did get set. How did I change it though? Yeah, it's set to true right now. Okay. Okay, well I think that proved it well enough. I don't know, I mean it seemed like it acted differently. I think I had done what we had already done. But as soon as I hit start and this guy's movable switches to true, I don't think the screen passes by fast enough for us to not recognize that he's not moving. We should already see him floating down or whatever. Okay, so it seems like the fact is we cannot programmatically change movable. Okay, so given that, if we want this guy to start moving this way, but only after the start button is pressed, but we want his movable to initially be off. Let's see, will we be able to do it that way? Well, no. We need to go back to the problem we were trying to solve. Problem we're trying to solve is this. I'm the golf ball. I do not want to constrain my attribute on X.
You could have something underneath and not
Okay,
like our T that we talked about.
gotcha. Well, not just holds him that way, but what about I don't want him to head this way?
Could you just constrain it to a position, like 55, 55?
Constrain it to a position.
Yeah, an X, Y.
Okay. What would that accomplish?
Until you press start, then it would start moving.
So the position would move.
No, the position would move. You'd release it from that position.
Here, let me do it this way. Just to ask the question in a better way. I'm going to constrain this attribute to our game's ball speed. Not current ball speed, but ball speed. But what attribute am I constraining? I'm constraining our golf ball's motion, linear velocity, x, to our game's ball speed, which is 120 right off the bat. So as we have it set right now, he just takes off. Now, I'm going to turn his movable off. So now he's not going. Now we've already seen that we can't turn movable back on programmatically, at least not in an obvious way. So instead, I want to have movable turned on for him, but I want to put something into play that keeps him from flying until after we hit start. So I want our golf ball here to not start heading to the right until after we've hit the start button. How do we pull that off?
Can after like self-destruct from hitting the start button?
Sure.
So could we put like a little thing holding the golf ball and then have it self-destruct so that when the start button is pushed, the golf ball starts moving?
Okay. So here we can repurpose actor 2. Like that. And you want him to go away as soon as our start button is pressed. Okay. So we'll go to start button. On touch released, we will set our, well, here, we're going to well, this is actually going to be an interesting, creates another interesting problem. In order to do this, we need to do destroy. Come on, alphabet. Okay. Notice that destroy only destroys this actor. Okay? That's our start button. That's not the guy we want to destroy. You want to destroy this guy. You want him to get out of the way. How can we make our click on the start button make this guy get destroyed?
Edit the instance
Edit which instance?
of the block,
Of this guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
so that when the start button is pressed, it
How?
destroys
How do I find out that the start button is pressed?
When current ball speed is greater than 0? Because that's what the start button does, right?
Okay. But then we're back to the problem we had before. If a specific actor or a specific attribute, current ball speed, is greater than 0, if that's true, then what are we going to do?
destroy the
There, right?
Is this...
seizure.
Stop it.
Oh, we don't know if we did it. I didn't click good enough. Now,
Which I need to just stop the ball.
well, no, it did it. Interesting question, though. Why is it that this rule happened multiple times, but the previous one that we changed for movable did not? And it had nothing to do with whether or not we could set movable, because we were also incrementing that variable. Rules are behavior containers. We go down here to rule. we see a rule is a different kind of guy. It's a group, okay, behavior container, as opposed to rotate to position. This is a, oh, actually, it's a new kind of behavior. I don't want to show you that one. That's a behavior container. Display text is a persistent behavior versus change attribute, which is a action. Actions happen once and only once, as opposed to destroy, which is also an action. So we have a rule containing an action. Previously, we had a rule containing an action. And the rule that was containing an action previously seemed to only happen one time, didn't it? That was back at our golf ball. In our golf ball, we had num questions. Just add a rule here to the very top. So we took the other rule out. And this guy said that if our games ball speed, our current ball speed attribute, is greater than 0, do what? Do some crap. Otherwise, so this really says if it's less than or equal to 0, let's do something. And what are we going to do? We're going to change an attribute. Not constrain, change. We're going to change our golf balls num questions attribute to whatever it currently is, plus 1. And then we decided that our games, or that our golf ball would display that over and over again, right? Okay, so our golf ball should be displaying its num questions. I'm going to go ahead and turn its physics to movables off for right now, because we're exploring how this rule works. So it should display num questions. Initially it should be 0, then it should go to 1. So there is 1. Still 1. Why isn't it changing? Just kill game salad? Okay, there we go. Similarly, if I go back and look at the rule for our actor, actor 2, oh, I'm sorry. We can look at the rule in our start button. This guy says that when we do touch release, what are we going to do? We're going to set our current ball speed to ball speed. And then inside of here is where we ask the question, if current ball speed is greater than 0, destroy this actor. So now when we hit start, right now current ball speed is 0, because we haven't hit start yet. Has this question already fired over in our golf ball? Mm-hmm. Have we already asked the question, if current ball speed is greater than or is less than or equal to 0, then set num questions equal to num questions plus 1? Because we know it's already fired because we're currently showing a 1. Has this guy's already fired? we're not necessarily sure. We know that when we click this, he dies. Well, let's go ahead and inside this actor, let's give him a num questions. Again, we can only add attributes to the prototype. Let's give him a num questions. Start this off at 0. And then we'll have this guy display text. Num questions. But in our otherwise, inside this rule, we're going to change an attribute. What attribute? If ball speed is greater than 0, destroy it. Otherwise, what are we going to do? We're going to set our actors num questions equal to our actors num questions plus 1.
I'm going to change the color of the text.
Yep. Okay. So, they've both obviously fired, correct? Well, when I clicked on start, this rule seemed to become aware. It fired a second time. Said, oh, current ball speed is greater than 0. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to get destroyed. As opposed to what? Our golf ball. As soon as current ball speed is less than 0, we do this. Let's go in here. Change our golf balls num questions to be our golf balls num questions. Here, we'll do plus 10. So we should see a very drastic change, right? Okay. What can we say now about rules involving attributes? I'll run this again. Is it clear that both of those rules have already fired once?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, right? They both fired once. They both set their num questions from 0 to 1. This guy's not supposed to get destroyed yet. This guy's not supposed to add 10 yet, right? But it's already fired once. When I hit start, what changes?
It fires again.
No, but true. But when I hit start, current ball speed, that attribute changes. Which means what? All rules that ask questions involving that attribute get asked again. Does that make sense? It's not a persistent question. It's a reactional question. Because we made that change, now any rule that asks the question will get asked again. That's an important understanding of how this matrix works. You know, how our world works here. That is, we put the rule in knowing full well that it's not going to be able to fire right off the bat. Correct? But we want to make sure that question gets asked again. How do we know that question will get asked again? It'll get asked whenever there is a change in that attribute. Why do you think that is? Why do you think this question only gets asked? So a question involving our current ball speed. Why would this question only get asked when there's a change in current ball speed as opposed to get asked each time through our game loop? Go ahead.
Change attribute is an action, so it only fires once.
Okay, well that's true enough. That doesn't say anything about a rule. But definitely true. That's a fact of actions. Actions fire once and only once per call of that action. Why do you think rules in our last negative 20 seconds here? All right, I'm going to ask that question at the beginning of class next time. Might even be in the form of a quiz. The question will be, why is it that rules involving an attribute only fire when that attribute has changed rather than every single time through the game loop? Okay? So think about that, and I'll see everybody on Wednesday.